We know the schedule. We know the teams. Now let's make some bets. What's up, IBT family? Tonight, we reveal our favorite 2024 NFL futures for the awards and player prop markets. Enjoy the program. Subscribe if you're new. It's the IBT podcast. Ready to rock and roll with you.
Cause I've been in tune, out of touch, coming off the bench, trying to shake the funk, check your stat line, see who's up, that over under hit too clutch.
And I'm trying to avoid getting carried away with the jet sweep, sleeping on a trick play, predicting all of my moves like they seen every play. So I'm running it back, head down, get out of my way. And it's for the law with only one thing to do. I guess I'll say a prayer and put it all on the line for you. What they don't know, something they haven't seen. I find a gap off the screen and hit them right in between. Yeah, I got it, and I got it.
Just one thing to say, yeah, what they don't know, something they haven't seen. I'm off that mean Joe Green, it got me fading in between. Yeah, I got it, and I got it. The In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
All right. It is Tuesday, May 21st, 2024, and I think I can say it, and I will not jinx it. It is summertime. It's officially summertime. This weekend, Memorial Day, marks just that, as well as a remembrance of those who made the ultimate sacrifice for this great nation. So we greatly appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. My name is Seth Woolcock. I'm excited to get back in the NFL betting scene tonight as we make our first futures of 2024. I officially made about half a unit at the draft, so not great, but we have a little bit of a bankroll to work with here coming into tonight. But I'm ready to get back in the batter's box, take a couple swings, and I'm not alone. I'm with a light branch and big business Texas man, the dude who has a sweet fucking arm sleeve, and usually has some hammers in the betting realm as well. Summertime, Eric Romoff. What's up, Eric?
Man, summertime to say the least. It is a brisk 94 degrees in the studio here in South Central Texas. We are fully into the armpit of the summer where you're just completely crushed by the heat. So we're gonna get a little bit of a sweat lodge going on the In Between show tonight. And yeah, we're diving back into those future markets, right? If you've been following along, you know that I like to take big swings, right?
Yeah.
Try to go out there and really move the needle on a few bets, and I will not disappoint in my choices tonight.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. I left a little bit of my bankroll set aside for something that you can talk me into, Eric, as you usually do. How was your weekend this past one? For me, it was a fun one. I went up to my hometown, played in a charity pickleball tournament. 1-2 on the weekend, not great. However, I did win the ultimate grudge match, beating my older brother and his fiance. So I got the win that mattered. Eric, any W's from you over the weekend?
Oh man, a literal W in a not dissimilar fashion among the many things that I spend my time on. One of them is coaching my 6-year-old son's t-ball team. The season was over last week, so we had a coaches and parents kickball game at our normally scheduled t-ball time. And let's just say, like, your boy still got moves out there, right? Like before the game was over, every time I was going to the plate, everyone was chanting Das Boot, right? Because I was putting some air underneath that ball. I mean, the reality is these balls are gigantic. They're like beach ball size, right? So if you're not hitting out of the park, you're generally popping out. But I made my way around the base pass a couple of times.
Glad to hear it. Eric, a couple RBIs on the weekend. I'm not surprised in the slightest. We're also joined by the behind-the-scenes specialist of this particular program, a guy who is about to enjoy some summer vacation of his own here very shortly. Yinzer legend, IUP alumni, and just known pudding blood pudding enthusiast, Kyle Scott. What's up, Kyle?
Hello. Yes, I am the pudding blood. So eloquently put. Yeah, it's summer vacation. I can't believe, Eric, that you guys aren't playing t-ball in the summer. How did it just end?
No. In the state of Texas, basically when you get through mid-May, you just plan on your ways to navigate the shade and the indoors until about football season, honestly. So we'll pick it up in fall ball, but we're not gonna have the kiddos out there sweating in the dog days.
You don't have T-ball Astrodomes out there?
Not quite yet, although there are some facilities that are
Oh, I'm
pretty
sure.
spectacular. Like we've got more of like the art house kind of setup with our T-ball association, but there are some ones that are taking full advantage of that booster money that's available to them.
Eric, you ever tried blood pudding, by the way? Do you know what that is?
I know exactly what that is. I was forced into blood pudding. A brother-in-law of mine is an Irishman, and for his bachelor party weekend, we were served up some of his traditional and favorite fare. So, if nothing else, you can say many things about me. One thing that you can definitely say about me is I am a courteous guest. So I pinched my nose, then and jumped into the blood
Oh,
pudding. Wasn't exactly my cup of tea. But hey, dude, I'm down for the ride, right? I'll try something once.
Kyle, we're
Keep the
definitely
vibes high.
indulging in some
Yeah.
blood pudding on your bachelor party, my friend.
My
We
guy.
can do it anytime. We don't have to save it just for then.
That is
Kyle's
true.
eating it off screen right now.
I honestly fuck with blood pudding heavy. If you guys haven't tried it, very great Irish delicacy. Kyle put me onto it a couple years ago. So make sure you're checking it out. Tonight on the show, we're gonna break the ice with some bear in mind or bullshit. We're gonna crack open the awards and player prop market as well from an NFL future standpoint. But first, I want to welcome in the IBT family and get them up to date with some company stuff. Dee, she was ready to go. Always compliments right off the bat. We appreciate it so much, Dee. Hope you're having a great evening out there in California. We got Albert joining us. Good evening, IBT.
Albert.
Good evening, Albert. Thanks for hanging out, man. And we got Rachel. She's hanging out. Rachel's got a couple good
Up,
pieces
Rachel.
of writing coming out this week on the site. Excited to see what Rachel is going to put out there in the world. I know some really great stuff. So excited for that. Also, I want to update everyone that Draft Night Out tickets still on sale. If you guys haven't got them yet, they're selling out with each passing day. We had a couple more come off the shelf just before the show. So if you want to pick who you're playing with, you want to pick your division, now's the time to get in. What is Draft Night Out, you might ask? It's our live draft night party at the Fantasy Football Expo in Canton, Ohio this summer. We got a bunch of different themed divisions as Hall of Famers. There'll be, of course, some drinks going around, some food going around, a bunch of giveaways, a bunch of different action, maybe a potential shot wheel as well, Eric.
Yeah, it's quickly become one of my favorite parts of the madness that is the Fantasy Expo weekend. I mean, the easiest way to put it is like the vibes are high, the energy's flowing, right? Like everyone's there to draft, but there's also a fair amount of shit talking, right? There's some nice side bets going on, right? Like the kettle brew house is just absolutely electric for the entire event.
Yes.
So looking forward to getting back out there and mixing it up with all of the IBT fam, all of the DGens that just never pass up on an opportunity to get out there and draft, all the people that are trying to make their way into those giveaways, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's gonna be such a fun ride this year.
The Fantasy Football Expo put out a tweet earlier today and said we got a big Saturday happening this year. What are you most excited for? The day 2 early access booths that are going to be up from the sports betting conference, the sports betting speakers, DNO live drafting, or watching Kings Classic. And keep in mind, Kings Classic you got Mike Clay, you got some big hitters in there. Draft Night Out currently winning that poll by 55%. Kings Classic is next 32%. Wow, Eric. Yeah.
I mean, let's just say this is my surprise phase, right? I figured that DNO would be a landslide, right? Like it's really a 2-horse race to not only get a plurality but a majority in that 4-way poll. I mean, that speaks volumes to the type of experience that DNO is. So, like Seth said, get in there. You can still pick your division and choose who you're drafting with. Even if you get a little late to the game, right? You just want to swing through and check out the vibes, get in on that standing room only access, right? Like it is a fun spot to be on Saturday night at the Expo.
Yes, you can meet new friends, maybe your potential future significant other. I haven't heard that story yet, but you never know. You never know what happens at draft night out and get a little crazy out there.
Right.
Also, if you're one of the first 100 entries to draft night out, we have a Taysom Hill signed jersey giveaway that Eric's donated to the cause. And also, very soon as we hit 1,000 subscribers on the channel, signed Frank Gore 49ers jersey. I know we do have a lot of 49ers faithful that are subscribers of the channel as well, due to some work I did with that community a couple of years ago. So excited to give that away. If you guys are not entered already, I know Rachel and I know Albert and Dee are, but if you guys are not entered, just spam in the chat subbed or put it in the comments that you are subscribed, and then we'll make sure we get you involved with that. But Eric, let's go ahead. Let's crack things open tonight with a little bear in mind or bullshit. How about it?
Let's get it.
This just in, breaking news. Man, that sounds like a bunch of bullshit to me.
As always, shout out to the Falcons media department who allows the entire internet to use their non-copyrighted videos for things. So we appreciate them taking one for the team out there. I've always wondered, like, did someone just not click a setting on their videos and photos? Because like them and the Titans, Eric, they just leak everything, but all the other teams, it's all copyright. It's crazy.
100% this is the result of an oversight, right? And like at a certain point, like it becomes a known quantity that they do this and you can get this, and now they're kind of pot committed, right? Like this has now gone from accident to policy, and I'm here for it, right? Like, you know, having unbridled access to this type of video footage is super helpful. And I mean, hey, here we are stumping about these two organizations to kick off the segment, so maybe it's working, right?
Yeah, let's do it, man, with some bear in mind or bullshit. This is our segment where we tell you a little bit of breaking latest news, and then we're going to tell you whether it's something to bear in mind from a fantasy football or betting standpoint, or whether it's a load of bullshit. So let's go ahead. Let's crack it open here with the first headline of the night. Najee Harris dropping weight in a contract year. Harris's trainer has told NFL.com's Kevin Paltra that he's dropped from 242 to 235 this offseason and is increasingly motivated after the Steelers declined his fifth-year option. Eric, is this something to keep in mind here in fantasy drafts? Currently RB23 over on Underdog, 7th round pick for Najee Harris. Is this something you're keeping in mind, or is this a load of bullshit?
This is an absolute load of bullshit, and it is apropos to the season, the part of the NFL calendar that we are in, right? We are now at the point where rookies have reported. We're starting to get some organized team activities and mini camps out there. Every single player who's had a microphone shoved in their face over the course of this part of the year is in the best shape of their life. They're faster, they're stronger, they're feeling better, their body feels great, right? So, like, I mean, my guy dropped 7 pounds, right? Like, I've probably dropped 7 pounds in the toilet here at various points in my life. So, I mean, leaner is nice. You know, all this is to say that I kind of like Najee Harris at value, but it has almost nothing to do with the fact that he's trimmed down a little bit, or that he's motivated by not having his fifth-year option picked up, right? Like, the state of the running back market in today's NFL is one where there's almost no reason for the Steelers to go out and pick up that option. That option would have paid him nearly $7 million, which would be tied for 5th in terms of the highest AAV among last year's free agency running back class, right? So, like, he goes out and performs. Maybe they sign him to a team-friendly deal. Maybe they just cut him loose and know that there's going to be a deluge of running back talent hitting the market this year that they can get for a similar amount of money, if not significantly less.
And also a hell of a draft class coming in here from the
no doubt.
running back position. If we get a couple commits to up in Ohio State, I know you and I are both eyeing from a dynasty standpoint. Yeah, and I'm with you, man. Like I do like Najee Harris kind of at cost right now, RB23. Like I would take Jonathan Brooks ahead of him, who's right behind him now, slid up to 24, but right in that 24, 25, 23 range, I'll take Najee. It has nothing to do with him slimming down. It's more just like we got a rejuvenated offensive line. Steelers went first and second round offensive line heavy. Arthur Smith likes to run the rock, and hopefully at least having a compatible quarterback, whether that's Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, can help Najee. So I'm with you there. This is bullshit about him dropping weight, but Najee Harris, not a bad value in drafts right now as it stands. Let's talk about Deuce Vaughn, running back for the Cowboys, K-State alumni, could be taking slot snaps for Dallas, according to Reed Handon of the USA Today. Eric, we hear this every year, and it's not just with the Cowboys, but I can specifically remember whether it was 2 years ago with Tony Pollard, we were hearing this. Like, I just feel like this never really happens, that running backs take meaningful snaps out of the slot, aside from like Tariq Cohen 2019, Theo Riddick like 2017. Is this something to bear in mind, or just bullshit to you?
I'll keep the trend alive. This is bullshit to me. You did a fantastic job articulating the historical case that we tend to hear rumblings like this, not infrequently, and it very rarely comes to pass. Also, you can check me on this as the Big J journalist in the room. I believe that Handon's article is reporting here was really more of kind of a case for why they should consider using him out of the slot. Excuse me. Not so much any sort of reporting that they're mulling it over or have it in their plans. Ooh. Right. It seems like it's a pretty speculative type of subject matter, both in a vacuum and in the historical context. But also you look at this team and, yes, they're thin at wide receiver, but the guys that they have returning, CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks, combined to play over 80% of their snaps out of the slot. So they're not exactly hurting for slot efficiency or effectiveness from that role. And you mentioned the Tony Pollard comp. At least Pollard, he played a fair bit of wide receiver in college. That was not really the case for Deuce Vaughn. So yeah, it feels like we're kind of grasping at straws for things to talk about in the Cowboys all-in offseason.
And I'll be honest, Eric, I should have read the article. I read the headline on RotoWire. It says Deuce Vaughn could take slot snaps ? And so yeah, good for you for reading the article, Eric. I'm part of the problem out here on the internet. You're the one actually clicking. So I appreciate that. Still a load of bullshit nonetheless. Mr. Scampers in the chat. Scamps. Good evening, lads and lasses. Good to see you, Scamps. We appreciate you hanging out with us tonight, man. All right, Eric, let's talk Justin Herbert. Quote, off to a hot start at OTAs. He's impressed early in the offseason training activities during 11-on-11 specifically, demonstrating a connection with Ladd McConkey, second rounder. This is per Daniel Popper of The Athletic. Is this something to bear in mind, or is this bullshit? Justin Herbert currently a huge value on Underdog Fantasy. I mean, just being absolutely buried in the rankings. QB 17 going off the board, nearly 127 overall.
Yeah, Justin Herbert, my second highest exposure among quarterbacks on Underdogs. He is dirt cheap, and it is really easy to get to his wide receivers from a stacking standpoint. So I will continue to go to that well. Shout out to Scampers for the flawless segue there. Lads and lasses, specifically Ladd McConkey. I mean, look, part of this is the time of year, right? In addition to picking up the offense very quickly, he's also lost a little bit of weight, and his arm feels better than it ever has, and he's sleeping and eating well and all that stuff. But I think, when we talk about kind of the context around the monumental, coaching and philosophy shift there for the Chargers, there's a few things to keep in mind. One, Greg Roman coming in, he is the master of an orchestrated offense, right? Like if you're talking about 11 to 15 plays that you can just run right off the top,
Yep.
that is his playbook.
Oh,
So I wouldn't be
Greggy.
surprised at all if a lot of that connection that's being reported is in that kind of like opening offensive sequence that they're, really trying to install in this part of the offseason. But, moreover than anything else, I think this has a lot to do with the fit of Lad McConkey, right? Like for however much of a cannon Justin Herbert has in that right arm, he doesn't use it all that much, right? Like he's going over the middle and he's taking first downs a lot, and that is absolutely the part of the field where Lad McConkey is going to feast. And he's shown us, over the course of his college career, over the course of the pre-draft process, that he is a master at creating separation and getting open. So the fit there is phenomenal. So it's not surprising at all that we're seeing positive reports. And despite all of the fluff that comes out this time of year, I think this is actually something to bear in mind.
Wow. Okay. Because I'm kind of on the opposite. I think it's a little bit of bullshit to me. Like, to me, like Justin Herbert has always kind of looked great. Like, but his fantasy value kind of comes down to the system and the volume. In my mindset here, Eric, like, what do you think the ceiling is for Justin Herbert this year? Like, obviously, you're getting a value probably where you're drafting him QB 16, but what do you realistically think the upside is for him right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the case for him is largely value based, right? I think his upside could be as high as like QB like 8 to 10 or so.
Okay.
Realistically, I mean, I project him to finish as QB 12. So right there on the fringe of QB 1. Nonetheless, a value at QB 16 where he's going. And for me, I think it's really more about we're already seeing signs of that connection between Herbert and his newly minted presumed wide receiver 1, Lad McConkey, right? Like getting into that rapport is going to be critical for them because, we go back over the history of Greg Roman offenses, and really the way that your quarterback is getting onto the fantasy radar, if he is not a athletic running freak of nature like Lamar Jackson, is by being hyper efficient, right? So the fact that like they're already building a foundation that can really point that arrow up, I think that the reporting is a positive sign and something that you want to see coming out of Chargers camp. So, I'm not going to move him up in my rankings because of it, but this is what you want to see. And when you're talking about a value guy that you're overexposed to, you'll cling on to that wherever you can find it.
My last piece of devil's advocate for you, Eric, is just this one thing that I kind of thought was interesting. Justin Herbert has always been like super high in attempts. 2020, fourth most attempts in the league, 595. 2021, second most attempts in the league, 672. 2022, 699, second in attempts. Keep in mind, the leader in attempts last year was 625 in the league. So we've seen passing volume come down as of recent. We saw Herbert and Brady get a couple crazy years with it. But in those years, that's when Herbert really took off. QB9, QB2, QB11, respectively, in those 3 seasons. So I just worry that like QB 10 is the ceiling. Like QB 8, I think you're a little more optimistic than I am, kind of still in that same range. But yeah, that's the only thing that worries me is that Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh are going to come in. They're 2 run heavy, win with defenses type of coaches.
He's going to have to be efficient if he wants to get there, right? So
yeah,
that will be the story arc for him this season.
It will be. Yeah. Great advice there. Let's talk about Joe Burrow. Might have a new haircut. And this is what like I hate about the fucking internet, Eric, because I can't figure out if anything's real or not. Bringing up Joe Burrow, apparently he's got a new cut going on here. But then we also see some practice photos. Dude does not have a new cut here as of a couple weeks ago. Is this AI or is Joe Burrow now Hayden Christensen, the next Anakin Skywalker? What the fuck's going on here?
Yeah, don't believe everything that you see on the internet, right?
It looks fucking sweet. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean it is a whole ass vibe, right? As someone who has recently started letting the lettuce go just for funsies, like fully in support of Joe Burrow, just seeing what happens with this flow. And I mean, he's got a nice wave to it, right? If this is real, more power to my guy, right? Just kind of mixing things up. But yeah, those practice videos would seem to indicate that this is more likely than not AI or some sort of Photoshop job.
God damn it. They got us. Kyle, they got us. Strike number 1 for the robots. They got us. They got us here tonight. Not happy about it. Not fucking happy about it. Yeah, hopefully maybe this inspires him though, Eric. Maybe we see a little Joe Burrow action with the long locks this year. That'd be pretty fucking
I mean,
sweet.
it is flatly inspiring, right? So I hope that this makes his way across his feed, and then at that point he knows clearly what he must do, right? My guy is bringing it in this picture. So if it's not real, hopefully it is a sign of things to come.
Absolutely. Maybe we'll bump his ADP up a couple rounds.
Yeah.
I'm sure it will.
Dude, he's coming out with a flow like that. I'll absolutely move him up like 10 to 15 spots. No questions asked.
Gotta think about it. It's got to be in the cards. In other news, DeVante Parker, 31 years old, and David Johnson announced retirement. And this is like less bear in mind or bullshit, but just like it goes to show how quickly that cliff comes, even for like one-time elite players. DeVante Parker, never really an elite player, did have a wide receiver 11 overall season in 2019, but never had another top 36 season. David Johnson, though, like when looking back at David Johnson's career, he has to be one of the most interesting players ever. Kind of pops on the scene. I don't want to say out of nowhere, but was a day 2 pick. So I don't think everyone thought he was going to pop the way he did. RB1 as a rookie, comes back the next year, season ending injury in week number 1, but then goes on to have another RB9 overall season in 2018, but then just had one more RB2 season with the Texans later in his career, as you know, Eric. So thoughts on David Johnson and DeVante Parker as we say goodbye to them. Probably last time we'll ever talk about them on this particular program.
Oh man, that really put some weight behind it. Rest in power to DeVante Parker and David Johnson in terms of the IBT show sheet. And look, like you mentioned how quickly it comes up. Like these are two guys that are well over the hill in terms of kind of the average NFL lifespan, right? So for real people out in the real world, saying that someone that's 31 and 32 is on the wrong side of the hill, feels a little weird. But I mean, shout out to both these guys, right? Like to make it into your 30s in this league is flat out an unqualified accomplishment. So their fantasy production can kind of come or go. DeVante Parker is one of those guys that you mentioned he had that one season on the fantasy radar.
Yeah.
If you double click and drill down a little further, he was the guy that would have stretches of like 2 or 3 games where it just felt like he was about to explode, and then he would just disappear one more time, right? So could never really string it together, but strung it together long enough to be, in the league into his 30s, which is worthy of a hat tip, if nothing else.
Absolutely. We got Scamper saying DJ Burn Bright. He did, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he had over 400 fantasy points his rookie year. Like arguably one of the best rookie fantasy outputs we've ever seen in the NFL. So good on DJ. Hopefully they have some great retirements. They enjoy themselves. In some final news before we get to our NFL bets tonight here, Eric, Antonio Brown, he files for bankruptcy. And listen, dude, like I never want to wish ill will on anybody. Like I'm always rooting for everybody, even the villains. And like Antonio Brown definitely painted himself as a villain, but like fucking good riddance, honestly. Like I got nothing good to say about this guy. And I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I threw his jersey away a couple of years ago. It was a Bumblebee jersey too. I kind of regret that because those were fucking sick. But like I don't know. I just can't ever say anything good about a guy who's made millions and millions of dollars and somehow has like no money to pay anybody. He's been allegedly sued for not paying child support for his kids, not paying doctors, not paying chefs, not paying entire fucking football teams and league. Like, I don't know, bro. Like, I don't know. I'm good on AB. Hopefully this last time we've talked about him on this program as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's an unfortunate reality. Less so recently, to the credit of the NFL, but there is a long list of players that made a substantial amount of money in their NFL careers that ended up broke and filing bankruptcy within a few years of retirement, right? So like it can very literally happen to anyone. And I don't necessarily, fault him for ending up in this circumstance, but the ways by which he did, right, where he is seemingly spending his money on frivolous things and not, taking care of his family and things like that. Like not exactly the type of scenario that you can get behind, but also, part of this, fully speculating, which I'll say out loud because I'm a journalist now after calling out that one article. Like some of this might be like kind of rich people tricks, right? Like there are times where like you find yourself in a spot where bankruptcy makes the most sense.
No. Dave Ramsey told me you can never go bankrupt, man. Dave Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey is nowhere near Antonio Brown's radar. What are we talking about here, my guy?
I'm just saying. You're saying sometimes like this is like some bullshit trickery that like this like a get out of jail free is what you're saying.
No, I don't think he's necessarily trying to pull a fast one, right? But like there's a point where like your finances get to a state where this is the logical,
you're probably right.
conclusion, right?
You're
and
probably
like
right.
On the other side of this, I have no doubt that he will be able to continue to monetize himself and his personality well into the future, right? Like he's not for everyone. He's not for me. CT ESPN is flat out hilarious as a concept, right? But yeah, like he's not everyone's cup of tea. He's not my cup of tea, but like, people tend to be attracted to these type of lightning rods. So I'm sure brighter days are ahead for him financially. Hopefully he does the needful with it and like takes care of his family and pays his bills and shit like that. But we'll see.
I will say thank you, AB, for your service on the Steelers. You were a fucking weapon for a long time, man. Some of my favorite moments as a Steeler fan involved you. So I greatly appreciate you, AB, for that. Hopefully, this is one step in the right direction. Disbanded brotherhood, same period. AB is a Bedanjo, which I had to look up because I wasn't sure what that was.
My guy.
A stupid or compatible person. You knew what that was?
Yeah. So this is regional identity here. You're up in the backwoods of central Pennsylvania. In San Antonio, that is known as a pendejo, which very much so fits that definition, but it is not a pandejo by any means.
What is this word then? This other word he's calling AV and also putting the clown on my.
I don't think I've got that one in my locker. I have been called a pendejo before, so that is why I'm familiar with it. I haven't had that one levied against me yet.
What did you do? What did you do to get yourself called that?
Oh my guy, there are some stories that are not ready for air, but let's just say that I am a habitual line stepper. I like to find that line, and sometimes in that pursuit, you step on the wrong side of it.
Okay, I thought you meant you like to line dance. That's what I thought you were talking about first. Oh shit! No. Do you get down with that at all, Eric? Because I know it's huge down in your area. I'd love to give that a little bit of a whirl, but it seems like you got to be fucking practicing in the thick of it, just hoping that one song comes on. Because I don't know how those people are doing that.
There's a time and a place for it, right? It's not something that I go to all that often, right? But like we're at a wedding, we're out with the right group of friends. There are some through lines to most line dances, right? Where like 40 to 60% of them are pretty similar from song to song, and then each one has its own little wrinkle, right? So like I'm not the first one out there rushing to hit the dance floor. I'm not the one that's saying we should go line dancing, but like tequila gets flowing and we're in a festive mood. I'll get out there and boot scoot a little bit.
Yeah, I like it. I like to hear it, man. You'll have to give me some tips maybe at the expo because I would love to do it. I don't think I would even be slightly coordinated to do it. Peso, it means clown. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Disbanded brotherhood. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get to our bets, though. Enough about AB, enough about Eric's line dancing shenanigans. Although I do want to hear more about that at another time. Let's get to it with between bets.
Between bets. Between bets.
right? It's between bets. We're breaking it up this year. Last season, Eric, I don't know what I was thinking from a content planning perspective. I threw it like, hey, let's do win totals. Let's do to make the playoffs. Let's do it all in one episode. Now we're breaking it up to awards, stat leaders, rookie leaders, player props. Like realistically, that's what it is. You're betting on players. That's what we're doing tonight in the futures market. What was your thoughts just on the market overall, Eric?
Yeah, I can say categorically that the scope of the market is much wider, much earlier in the off season this year, right? As sports wagering
Agreed.
continues to proliferate, we're seeing more and more creative ways to try to offer those markets to potential bettors, and in turn, like that optionality, right? Like the variety of choices out there is better for us as bettors, right? We're going to get more competitive lines. We're going to have more creative ways to try to take advantage of markets. So yeah, that's kind of the overarching kind of trend that I've noticed with this year's set of futures.
And are there any general like rules to live by when betting futures for the NFL season, especially this early in the offseason? Because like you are tying up some of your bankroll, and it's something to keep in mind is like if you're going to do it, I think you need to do it either. There's two ways I look at it personally as I need to be taking some longer shots that I think actually could hit, that I could have a nice payday 7 months from now, or it's B, like one of those bets that I feel really, really confident in. And I think could even hit potentially earlier in the season. I might not be able to cash it out until the end of the regular season, but like on the NASCAR side of things right now, I already cashed a Denny Hamlin over season win total, which I felt really strongly about, and we're a couple a month or two into the season, so like that those are the types of bets personally I look for. Is there any general advice that you can give out to the IBT family when we're looking at futures markets here in May?
Yeah, so my advice more so aligns with the former part of your statement. Like if I'm going to tie up any part of my bankroll for a significant amount of time, it better be for the opportunity of a pretty significant payday, right? Like I don't want to, lock up 2, 3, 10 units for 4, 5, 6, 8 months. And if everything goes well, I get 10 and a half units back, right? Like I really want it to be a substantial payoff if I'm going to carve off that part of my bankroll for so long. And secondarily, with those longer shots, at least in my experience, as you get further into the season, your ability to kind of use those as hedges,
Yes.
either in
Yep.
like your week over week betting, or as you get further into the season to hedge off of that bet, allows you to either mitigate your risk, or if you are a sicko like me, double down on your risk for even greater
Yeah.
significant, even more significant payoff, right? So like it's more about kind of the reward of at the end of the rainbow for locking up your money that long, but also the optionality that you get with a larger purse at stake.
Yeah, and I think it's taking advantage of those markets as well, kind of like you alluded to. And there are a lot of books, especially like FanDuel is very active in cash outs that, hey, if you get something at long odds and they're not liking it, they'll offer you a cash out at some point. A lot of different books. Well, DraftKings, which we're partners with as well. And if you want to get invested with them, you can click on the link below. You can deposit $5, get up to 200 in free bets. But Eric, your thoughts on that as well?
Yeah, so most books are offering cash outs. To your point, I haven't found one that gets particularly aggressive or enticing with them, right? Like you're still a good way into the season looking at pennies or maybe nickels on the dollar for a winning ticket to cash out on it, right? So point taken and fair one to raise. Like you can pull the ripcord and get that money back out, but also it kind of has me thinking like in this hyper competitive market, if a sports book were to take the lane of like we're going to get really aggressive on payout or buyout options, like that would be a really interesting differentiator in what has become a very crowded marketplace.
FanDuel has kind of become that for the NASCAR marketplace as well, and even the
Interesting.
PGA. And like last week, even on Sunday, our PGA guys, they told me to take Bryson outright, Bryson DeChambeau for the PGA Championship, and I had a cash out option of like 10 times my money sitting on the
Oh,
table
nice.
going into the 18th hole. I didn't take it. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna let it play. I just was like, I'm gonna let it play.
So what were his odds heading in though to win outright?
I think they were about 36-1 is what I hit it
Okay.
at.
So it was like a 1/3 payout kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, just about. So I could have taken it. I was being a little greedy. I already cashed a big bet on the day with Ty Gibbs winning the NASCAR All-Star Open. So I was like, I'm just gonna let it ride. And my brother was sitting next to me. He's like, don't do it, don't do it. So fuck you, Austin. I
Yeah.
should have done it.
Well, we'll see if that trend holds into the NFL season because that would be a useful lane for someone to occupy.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about some bets here, Eric. Where's your favorite player prop or award future that you like for the 2024 NFL season, my friend?
Ooh, I struggle with favorites, so I'll just go in the order that I've jotted them down here. First one I'm going to talk about is none other than Brock Purdy to be the leading passer in the regular season. This is really more of a pricing play. He's plus 2,500. He is well down the board. I think he's like the 9th or 10th quarterback on that list in terms of the length of their odds. And this is Brock Purdy, who I believe was QB5 in passing yards last year. Passed for like 4,300 yards. If we averaged like a little bit more than 20 yards more per game, he would have passed the passing leader from last season to Tagovailoa. So, I mean, it is very much so within range that he can be, within arm's reach, within shouting distance of this number, and specifically to get him at 25-1, like that price was just too enticing to pass up. Right, there are an embarrassment of weapons at his disposal in terms of pass catchers. Obviously he's not the highest pass volume guy. He was 20th in pass attempts, but the San Francisco 49ers project to be another yak monster type of receiving core. So Brock Purdy, who finished at 5 last year, getting 25-1 to be at the king, the top of the mountain in passing yards was just a little bit too good of a price for me to pass up.
Man, I told you I was holding a little bit of my bankroll for a bet you're going to bring to the table, and I think this might be that one, Eric.
Get in
I was looking at this market specifically and trying to see, hey, is there somewhere I can take advantage of the pricing? And looking, I'm very much a favorite bettor. I will say that I very much bet favorites a little too heavily at times, personally. And I was looking at like a Pat Mahomes 6-1, and like Tua last year somehow won this market, which was surprising. But I saw Brock Purdy was up there in the passing yards from 2023. And keep in mind as well, Eric, he missed a game late in the season as well. So he could be either even further up that list. And let's keep in mind, too, Ricky Pearsall joins the team. Jacob Cowning joins the team. 2 talented rookies, a first and a 4th round rookie, I believe, there in Cowning. So I'm really excited what Brock Purdy can do if they can keep this band together. If they can keep Ayuk, Debo, and everyone together. I think the sky's the limit. Like, we have to say that is the best offense in the league. So for 25-1 for their quarterback to have the most passing yards, and he's only going to get better. He's going to be more motivated. He's coming into his 3rd year, coming
100%.
off a Super Bowl run where he comes up just a little bit short. God damn it, Eric. I like this for 25-1. I don't know if I could get a full unit down on it just because it is, there is some risk, but I mean, definitely half a unit. I think I'm going to be throwing on this. I love it.
Yeah,
Great call out.
the way that I landed here was speculating in the MVP markets where he is 7th at plus 1,200, and this is a guy that up until the last 2 weeks of the regular season was firmly in that conversation. And then you start bouncing around, and it's like, well, I mean, he's going to be in the MVP conversation if he is near or among the leading passers in the league, right? So to essentially get that at a 2 times the number is kind of what pushed me over to this side of the argument.
I love it. Let's stay with this season stat total leaders, and I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb, most regular season receiving yards. This is plus 750 on ESPN Bet. I went 1.5 units. You can get him if you're using DraftKings or FanDuel. You can get him about 7-1 on those books. Found a little bit more of a value over on ESPN. But the Cowboys offense just gotten so much worse this season, folks. Like, losing Tony Pollard, they bring back Zeke, lost several key linemen, so I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball necessarily. And aside from CeeDee Lamb, it's Brandon Cooks, you got Jake Ferguson, Jalen Tolbert, who's a 2022 third rounder.
Deuce Vaughn out of the slot.
Yeah, you got all Deucey out of the slot. But you got Jalen Tolbert, who's apparently going to be the wide receiver 3 here and going to be a starter. Only has 24 receptions in 2 years. Other than that, Eric, like, it's guys you legitimately don't even fucking know who they are. And you and I could probably go back and forth and name 200 receivers in the NFL. And these guys are all day 3 undrafted wide receivers, not going to be on that list. They're going to have to lean on CeeDee every which way this season. And already last season in the NFL, CeeDee Lamb, number 1 in targets, 181, number 1 in receptions, 135, number 2 in yards, 1749, right behind Tyreek Hill, 3rd in touchdowns, 12. And Dallas, like, last year, I think, like, they had some pretty shitty game scripts from a fantasy standpoint. Remember early in the year, we were like kind of fucking hitting the panic button on CeeDee and some of these Dallas Cowboys. But this offense is going to be against other good out of division offenses this year. Some of those matchups include Baltimore, Detroit, the 49ers, the Atlanta Falcons, if they're going to be improved, Houston, Tampa Bay. So, like, they're not going to be fucking steamrolling everyone by 50 every single week this year. Better game scripts, less competition for CeeDee Lamb. Any reason you don't like this bet here, Eric?
No, actually, I love it, if I'm being candid, right? And a lot of it has to do with that price tag, right? He was a couple of receiving yards per game shy of taking down this very award last year. And that was, I mean, that was with a pretty polarized sort of distribution in terms of his productivity over the course of the year, right? Like, he finished the back half of the season like a man possessed, but you look at the beginning of the year, he's got some 36s and 49s and 53s in the mix, right? So, like, if we were to take kind of the back, half of his season and project it out over the course of a full 17 games, he would win this title, this award, finish as the number 1 receiver by a pretty wide margin. And, while we have to worry about Deuce Vaughn sneaking into some of his slot snaps, the reality is, like, he is going to be a target funnel in this offense, right? Like, Brandon Cooks is still kicking around. Sure. Ferguson's out there, much more of like a red zone kind of underneath type of target. So,
sure.
Yeah, I mean, from what we know of the Cowboys, he is easily going to be one of the most heavily targeted receivers in the league. And he was right on the cusp of doing this last year. So, if I had to set the market on this, I would probably set the market at like 375 plus 400, something like that.
With him being the favorite?
750. I would probably still put Tyreek Hill as the favorite, but they would be much closer in odds, right? I'd probably have Tyreek Hill at like 250, 300 and have CeeDee Lamb at like 370, 400 kind of range.
They feel like the heavy favorites to me. Tyreek feels like the person who could beat CeeDee the most. Yeah. Like Justin Jefferson at 11-1, Puka at 14-1. Like, you could maybe convince me. Like, Jay Jet specifically at 11-1, I think might be my favorite other value on this board here. But yes, CeeDee Lamb, he's my favorite in that market. Any other thoughts on the player prop season stat leader market before we shift to some other bets we like here, Eric?
Yeah, I'll stay in this market, and I will. I was gonna say I would go against you in terms of your pick, but really it's more of a secondary consideration, right? Looking at the most receiving yards market, Garrett Wilson jumps out to me at plus 1,600. This is a number that I would put a full unit down on. Look, the reality is, like, the type of production he was able to put up last season with the absolute carousel of spare part quarterbacks that were out there was commendable, right? Like, yes, he didn't have a phenomenal season from a receiving yard standpoint. He finished number 22 overall with just over 1,000 yards, but he was number 10 in the league in terms of air yards. He's number 3 in the league in terms of air yard share. And then you start looking at some of his, his advanced metrics around the quality of his targets. Number 65 among qualified receivers in catchable target rate, right? Like his true catch rate, 83% relative to his actual catch rate of 56.5%, right? So like, some of this is, just nowhere to go but up. But realistically, if we are bullish on Aaron Rodgers being able to return to, the Aaron Rodgers that we mostly know him to be for the majority of the season, Garrett Wilson's upside is absolutely as high as the leading wide receiver in the NFL next year. So to get that at 16-1, that's definitely the type of bet that I would like to speculate on alongside that CeeDee Lamb bet, which really underscores a point we should have brought up earlier. You don't have to plant your flag on one player in any of these bets, right? Like you should very much so build a portfolio so that you can hedge against yourself down the road, or you can find other ways to leverage off of your exposure, right? So those two bets combined would be a really interesting way to start attacking this particular market.
Garrett Wilson feels like one too. If he comes out hot early in the season, he start picking up a little bit of momentum with Aaron Rodgers. That could be a cash out. That could be a cash out, and you could still be holding that CeeDee Lamb ticket, or if you prefer to go with like a Tyreek Hill or someone like that. So love the call out here as well from you, Eric. I'm gonna shift over to actually I'm gonna let you hang out here because I know you have one more like overall player stat leader, kind of a little bit of a different market here, but I'm gonna hand it off to you to go ahead before I shift a little bit more into some other markets.
Yeah, so the last market that I would look to take advantage of here is in the rookie category, specifically looking at rookie passing yard leaders, and JJ McCarthy kind of jumps off the page for me. His odds aren't super long. He's plus 350. He's kind of like he's right at the tier break before you get into the sort of Bo Nixes of the world that have much longer odds, but looking at his set of circumstances, like he should start very quickly, if not immediately, there in Minnesota. This O'Connell system is one that is not shy about chucking the rock down the field. They are a high volume passing offense. And he has, certainly when TJ Hawkinson comes back and arguably before that, one of the best complement of receiving weapons around him among this rookie class, right? So to be able to get him at plus 350, and then you kind of start to, at least the way that I landed on this was by kind of, chipping away at the case for the other two odds-on favorites, right?
Yep.
Caleb Williams, absolutely has as strong, if maybe not better, set of weapons around him. But that defense is projected to be much stronger. And also he can do a little bit with his legs, right? Whereas McCarthy, they have to rely on his arms. And then with McDaniel, that is very much so the case. He is going to be running the ball, maybe not as frequently as he is passing, but certainly far more frequently than JJ McCarthy. So, kind of looking at these, these clustering of favorites, trying to find those tier breaks, there's usually value that you can take advantage of there. And, then just kind of take more of an objective look at that sort of subgroup that you've built out and try to understand, which players have the most logical path to that outcome, or which players have things that are working against that outcome. And that is almost step by step exactly how I landed on JJ McCarthy to be our rookie passing yard leader at plus 350.
I think if you're betting this market, it is JJ McCarthy personally. I don't mean to keep agreeing with you, but Caleb Williams at even money, I'm not tying up even.
No way.
Yeah, I'm not tying up even money. Even Jaden Daniels at plus 250 feels like an overpay for a guy who only has really 1 year of passing production, had 2 elite wide receivers in college. Like he doesn't have that in Washington. Like he has Terry McLaurin. I'm a big Jahan Dotson guy, but we haven't seen it quite yet. JJ McCarthy has the weapons at plus 350. Like if Bo Nix had better weapons at 8-1, or if Drake May did at 16-1, those could be interesting. We don't know if May's going to start right away though, so that kind of puts. And Bo Nix, while we think he's going to be the starter, Cortland Sutton, Troy Franklin versus what JJ has in the bag out there in Minnesota.
My guy is going to make no mention of Marvin Mims out here, everyone's favorite sophomore darling.
No, fuck Marvin Mims.
To be fair, as I talk about building a portfolio in a given market, my portfolio in this market will exclusively be JJ McCarthy and Bo Nix, right? The McCarthy bet is the one that I like more, but of the guys that we project to start for the majority of the season, those are the two clearest. Drake May, like, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see him play less than half of the games this year
Wow.
as New England tries to position themselves for a more
Sure.
favorable draft pick next year.
Sure.
But also, like, having a professional like Jacoby Brissett be able to, kind of model what it means to be an NFL quarterback is it's kind of the long view type of approach that New England is kind of known for, right? Obviously, it's a new regime there, but it would be a very New England thing to have the kid sit behind kind of the model citizen in Brissett and learn how to be a pro before he takes the field right around the midway point.
Completely agreed with you, man. Love what you came to the table with tonight, Eric. I'm going to throw a couple more out there for us. I'm going to go with a player over under total. And I usually don't love this market because I think the lines are usually pretty sharp. And I also think the odds get quite juiced over here as well. But to have Derrick Henry at plus money to go over 1,000 yards, really, to me, it's worth going all in on it. I'm going 4 units, biggest bet of the NFL season, one of my biggest bets ever. Honestly, I'm not a huge high unit better usually, but listen, man, like, I think Derrick Henry coming here last year goes for almost 1,200 yards, second most in the NFL, and he was sharing the backfield with Tyjae Spears. Newsflash, the Ravens don't have anyone as talented as Tyjae Spears. I think Keaton Mitchell has a nice little bit of juice. I think he'll show a little bit of pop, but I think it'll take some time for him to get back. And also, like, Derrick Henry now gets an improved situation. I don't love the offensive line as much as I think, like, I don't think it's an upgrade over Tennessee, but at the same time, Lamar Jackson is going to be able to draw some of the defense off of him. Henry's also been top 2 in the league in rushing yards the past 4 seasons when he's been healthy. And the one season he wasn't healthy, he played 8 games, almost had a fucking 1,000 yards anyways, 937 in 2021 in just 8 games. So I think even if Henry misses a game or two, which he hasn't done much, he's only missed 3 games in 7 years outside of that one season in 2021, where he did miss those 8 games. He's only missed 3 games. He played all 17 last year. I think he'll be okay to hit this, man. I really like it. I also maybe don't hate the most rushing yards in the league at 12-1. Obviously, CMC is the heavy favorite in that market for a reason, but thoughts on my Derrick Henry? You only pay the juice if you lose, Eric. You only pay the juice if you lose.
Yeah, I think you've laid out a logical argument for how Derrick Henry gets there, and why in a vacuum this type of bet makes sense. For me, it's really just the idea of locking up that much of your bankroll on this type of price tag for the majority of the season, right? So, like, I mean, I was going to say he very clearly. I don't know if he very clearly is the leading rusher in the Baltimore backfield. Right, last year it was Lamar Jackson, 141 attempts, 821 yards. Really what you're doing is saying, if Derrick Henry gets the Gus Edwards role, which was about 200 carries, he is more efficient as a runner than Gus Edwards is, and maybe Keaton Mitchell takes 4-6 weeks to come back and to get up to speed. Is that enough to put him over the top? I think it is, right? Not necessarily a slam dunk case from where I sit right now, but I think it's more likely than not. So as a bet, right? If you could somehow place this bet in early December and have it get paid out at the end of the regular season, I would love it. As a future, I kind of lean towards having a little bit more flexibility in how and where I apply my bankroll.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there, man. I originally put -110 on the ticker. It's actually +110, but still, like, swing of 20 cents there. Not a huge swing. But yeah, I definitely get the concern of locking in that much bankroll. It's one of those, to me, like, have you ever heard of, like, I don't know enough about stocks to even say it, like, but let's say it's like the low risk stocks, if that makes sense. Like, you're not going to make a lot of money. You're trading some low risk assets, but
the blue chips.
Yes. Yes. Yep. All right. So I'll round us out here with my final bet of the night. I'm gonna go to the awards market. And honestly, I didn't love the awards market this year, Eric. Like it's something I usually like to get invested with. I thought about, doing a little spike TJ Watt bet, found him at plus 650 for the defensive player of the year. I thought about it. But instead I thought Marvin Harrison Jr. to win offense rookie of the year 7-1 was an outlier on DraftKings. Caleb Williams, the heavy favorite, obviously in this market, plus 135 at DK. But what does he have to do to win that? Like, probably take the Bears to the playoffs, in my opinion. Marvin Harrison Jr. was arguably the most sure thing in this class. Lands in the true alpha role in Arizona with a pretty decent quarterback in Kyler Murray. Like, I'm lower on Murray than most people. I still think he's a top 13, 14 quarterback in this league. And a wide receiver has that also won this award, Eric, in 2 of the last 3 years. That's Garrett Wilson, Jamar Chase. And they've also finished second place last year and 2020, the 2 years that a quarterback won it. That was Puka last year and Justin Jefferson in 2020. It's 7-1 for a unit for me. And I think this is one I'm just waiting for you to talk me out of it, or else I'm going to go back for more, I think, on some different books, because 7-1 just feels like a huge outlier for what in my opinion is the most lock of a player to pop off during his rookie year.
Yeah, I think he is probably going to be the most impactful rookie of the lot, right? Like in terms of just outplaying his expectation. I think, as evidenced by his plus 135 number, that the expectations for Caleb Williams is pretty high. So he would have to, have a Stroudsian type of rookie campaign in order
which is
to
hard to
surpass
do.
those. And the point that I think is most salient that you made here is, we tend to look at NFL MVP as a quarterback's award. That is not the case with offensive rookie of the year, right? You mentioned 2 out of the last 3 were wide receivers, but you just run down the list over the last 20 years, and it's basically every other year is a non-quarterback, right? So like, these quarterbacks have to do something phenomenal, like CJ Stroud last year, like Justin Herbert in 2020, like the explosive season that Kyler Murray put up in 2019, in order to really, be a lock for this award. So, his number at 7-1 or so looks really appealing. If you want to hedge with a quarterback, you can also get into the JJ McCarthy game here at 12-1, right? If you think that it is going to be a quarterback option, a player that, we just made the case for why we think he's going to be passing the ball very effectively for a high volume. If that happens and Minnesota is back in contention, or at least a playoff team, I could see him getting some nods. So sort of that tier of options in the offensive rookie of the year market is the one that catches my eye. But yeah, I would feel very good about 7-1 for Marvin Harrison to take it down.
Little Marv, baby. Yeah, I feel like I want to get invested with Marv because he's a fun player to root for. Loved watching him at Ohio State, despite being a Penn State fan, and being kicked with that every single weekend, seeing the guy on the other side of the field. But to get invested with him here feels great at 7-1, where I feel like I won't be having him a lot in fantasy just because he'll be so overpriced. But Eric, it's been awesome tonight, man. I appreciate hanging out with us, giving us your best bets from a positional prop and award standpoint here heading into the 2024 season, man. Tell us what other work you're doing in the fantasy football industry and the sports betting and fantasy sports industry in general, man, how we can best support everything else you're doing outside of IBT.
Yeah. All of my work rolls into my personal Twitter page, which is at FantasyNav. I've got some best ball articles dropping for drroto.com, which is where the majority of my written work ends up landing. And as always, despite the season being over for 4 or 6 weeks, we're still out in these college basketball streets talking about the transfer portal, talking about new coaches coming in, talking about conference realignment. Actually, around this time tomorrow, we will be live talking to head coach Chris Victor, the coach of the Seattle Redhawks. Very much so a young, up-and-coming coach within the college basketball ranks, but also a Seattle University program that just realigned over to the WCC. They're getting ready to take the step up to kind of the high mid-major ranks. So that'll be an interesting conversation. We'll be chatting up with him over on the Green Screens Media YouTube channel.
Well, make sure you guys open up a new tab here on YouTube and check out Eric and Green Screens Media, everything they're doing for your college basketball fix. And if you want to support us here in Between Media, if you want to get involved with that giveaway for that Frank Gore jersey, we're just about at 1,000 subscribers. We're going to give it away. If you're a 49ers fan or just an NFL fan, let us know. Put in the comments of this video or the live chat that you're subscribed, and we'll add you to that list. We can't just pull a list of all the subscribers. I don't know why YouTube doesn't let you fucking do that, but there's no export button on it that I found so far. But everyone, take care. Thank you guys so much for all the support. We greatly, greatly appreciate. Kyle, thanks for your work in the back end as well. We'll talk to you guys next time. Until then, you know what to do. Keep it in between. Thank you.